I'm going to talk a little bit about Jews on American campuses. The University of California has 10 campuses, 230,000 students, 180,000 employees, and $5 billion of research. I'm the president, but I rarely feel in charge. I've been asked about what it's like to be president of the University of California, and I've said it's not as lonely at the top as I had hoped. Everyone has an opinion on what I should do. Obviously, Jewish students are a distinct minority on these 10 campuses. 9 of them are academic institutions, but Natan informed me, and I believe it is true, that while there's wide variation, probably from 1 or 2% to 10 or 15%, we probably have over 1,000 Jewish students at a minimum on most of our campuses. You remember, it's an issue for us is that all the Jewish students do not self-identify as Jewish students. You know, in terms of their university life, I think there's an enormous allegiance to Hillel, and they do a very good job in terms of the service mission. There are Jewish studies programs, and there are Israel studies programs. So we have one at the UCLA, we have one at Berkeley. I'm a member of the law faculty, it's there. As you may know, the Schusterman Foundation has an Israel Institute, which I think is a magnificent initiative to create more Israel studies groups on American university campuses and to exchange scholars and translate books and do a lot of very critical things. I think in general we do surveys. The Jewish students, despite what you may have heard, are generally thriving. They like the University of California better than most of the other groups. They also, birthright has been an enormous benefit to them, and they affiliate sometimes with local synagogues, and I think in general there's a sense of belonging. I also think, and I think it's the history of the Jewish people, that there is some what I would call creative alienation between Jewish students and the larger culture. And I don't want to get into that in much detail, but you know, it sometimes leads to the Mark Chagall's of the world, or the Ludwig Wittgensteins, or the Albert Einsteins, and sometimes to the Leon Trotskys and the Karl Marxes of the world. But I mean, there is a certain tension which I think which can be very creative and not necessarily destructive among Jewish people. The efforts to delegitimize Israel on American campuses, it is an enormous challenge. There is often an alliance between some of the Muslim organizations and other interest groups, racial minorities, and others. There are, Palestinian Awareness Weeks, which offend many Jewish students. There has been, in some ways, and I heard the chief rabbi of Great Britain say this, that a usurpation of the narrative of human rights on American campuses by these groups in discussing Israel. And obviously, this is a view that I vehemently disagree with, and if you go back to 2010, I issued a statement with the chair and vice chair of our Board of Regents that we were not going to do divestment of Israel. There was a double standard, and it was not going to happen. But that has not prevented the commotion from continuing on the campuses. And I have to say the Jewish community on campuses, they're not monolithic. You all know that. When I get letters, and I get a lot of letters when I speak out about these issues, I get plenty of letters from Jewish professors and students who express severe reservations about Israeli policies. I also get a lot of letters from adult organizations that sometimes don't act so adult. So this effort at delegitimization is an ongoing problem, and I frankly don't know where it's all going to come out. I don't see much of a political base. In fact, I just got a letter from some of the legislative leaders thanking the university and me and the Board of Regents for being so staunch in opposing divestment and boycott. So that's my personal opinion. I don't see much gravitas in a political sense, but it seems to me, being the president, every 6 months I'm reading about another vote of some sort of student organization on this issue, or some sort of academic organization, and too often that vote is lost. The other thing I wanted to say is just my role as a constitutionalist. We're not going to be able to silence these people on American campuses, nor should we. If they engage in violence, if they prevent people from going to class, or, I mean, other things, you should act. But the American constitutional way, which is different than some parts of Western Europe, is that we protect the speech, even anti-Semitic speech or anti-African American speech or whatever. And I also think when we think about our history, part of the Third Reich is the silencing of Jewish professors and the burning of books and the destruction of Jewish art and the redesignation of Jewish art as Aryan art. And that is not the way of our people. That will not be a successful strategy. Our strategy is not the book burning business, the censorship business. It is building up Jewish institutions, Jewish studies programs, Israeli studies programs, and promoting vibrant free expression. And in the long run, we will prevail on these issues. But it is simply not going to be very helpful to think that there's some way to identify the people who are antagonistic to Israel and somehow figure out some way that they won't be able to speak. If anything, that effort will backfire and will result in more people speaking out from that point of view. At least that's my opinion. You may disagree. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.